And I think for women, some maybe get a bit hesitant wanting to build muscle, scared of putting on body fat. Oh, I don't want to like put on fat and, you know, have to go through that. Have any of you girls ever experienced being scared of building and scared of putting on body fat? Yeah. It's a bit hesitant, you know, and that can be the blunder in why so many women take that step in actually trying to increase their calories and actually put on some size because that fear of the number on the scale going up. But today, hopefully, what we give you today, it restores that confidence and belief that you can increase your food in a conservative manner and start seeing the results that you actually want to see in the gym from the hard work that you are putting in and not be discouraged.
Talking about, which is muscles. That's my average diagram of a muscle. This is basically what a muscle looks like. So what causes muscles to grow? We've got two things. Stimulus, so the training, tick that off. And then we also have protein, because that's the building blocks of muscle. So combine some stimulus with protein, you have muscle increasing. If you're missing either of them, you're gonna have a hard time growing muscle. So we need to tick those two boxes off first.
Now, one of the key components in making sure that you can build muscle and not just put on a whole heap body fat is coming back to here, the stimulus, right? So, has anyone ever heard of training intensity, training to failure? Have you heard that a lot on social media? If you want to grow muscle, you need to be training hard, you need to be training with intensity, right? So has anyone ever taken that within their own training and maybe made it a focus and a priority to see if you are pushing with intensity? But how do we train hard, right? Training hard, we just say like, yeah, you need to train hard, but what does that essentially mean? Paul?
Yeah, so I guess like the best way for you to gauge your intensity in the gym is going to be how close you get to failure. The closer we get our training to failure, the more stimulative it's going to be for muscle growth. Do you guys all know what failure is within training? You've all probably experienced it. You know, as you get towards the end of the set, it's like, you're trying to bust out a rep and you're like...
It's quite aggressive, yeah, it's quite brutal.
It's like you're really giving it some. Oh yeah, the face. Like that's a perfect tactile sign. Like if you're looking for what signs are we looking for when we're training hard, it's going to be your face is, you're pulling faces, you know, your reps are starting to slow down. So how fast the reps moving on the concentric, so on the way up, that's going to slow down. So as you get there, you're like, oh, and you're like, oh, and then you're like, all right, now we're in the money. That's where the money reps are. You know, anywhere from like 3 reps till you get to the point of failure, that's going to be pretty good for growing muscle. So,
does anyone film their training and ever look back at it? You guys ever film your sessions sometimes? Sometimes we do a set, we're like, oh my God, that was so hard. Like there's no way I could have gotten any more. And then you watch your set back and you go, oh shit, that last rep moved almost just as quick as my first one. So that's why even my own clients, I love encourage them to film themselves, even if they send it to me or not, which is fine, but to film it and start watching it back. So from my own personal experience, I started seeing the best changes in my physique when I got a coach, especially surrounding bodybuilding, going in face to face and actually having them push me till I actually couldn't physically lift up the way I thought I used to train hard. But then when I got someone to teach me how to train hard in a surplus, that's when I started looking my best in a surplus. Is there any more you would add to the training aspect before we get to nutrition?
That's it. Yeah, I think like training is always going to be one of the key aspects. You know what I mean? It is the stimulus that causes the adaptation. So once we dial that in, we're training hard. The next thing we're going to look at is going to be our nutrition. So you're going to want to be in the surplus. Calories are the fuel and the resources for building muscle, so muscle can grow. Paired with the stimulus, you're going to see great muscle growth. That also helps with performance. So the more calories you have coming in, the more energy you have for your workouts, the better your performance is, the better quality your training can be, and therefore the more muscle you can build. Having an abundance of calories actually gives the body the internal environment it needs to say, hey, it's safe to grow, because essentially the body doesn't really want to grow muscle. You know, it's counterproductive. Like across evolution, we have never really needed that much muscle to get through. You know, hunters and gatherers, they walk everywhere, they walk long distances, they don't need muscle. So we need to create an environment that says to the body, hey, it's safe to grow muscle. That comes from a calorie surplus as well. There's a few things that we can track to make sure that we are gaining at a rate that is appropriate, and that's going to be our scale weight,
progress photos.
Progress pics and your performance. But when you're looking at scale weight, we're not looking at scale weight on day-to-day changes, because you've probably done it, you jumped on the scale one day, you're like, okay, I'm 63. Jump on the next day, 65, and you're like, I've gained 2 kilos, what's happened? So you want to look at it on averages, so averages over the week. So you take your scale weight each morning, first thing in the morning, before you eat, before you drink, and then you take it daily and then work out the average. That's going to give you a better gauge of where you're at. And then ensuring that that is increasing slowly over time, but at a rate that's not putting you at risk of gaining excessive fat. 200, 400 grams per week on average is probably a really reasonable rate of gain.
Nice conservative one.
And the reason why we want to keep that slow is because realistically, how much muscle can we be building in a given week, or even in a given session, or after a given session? It's probably not a lot. So if you're gaining 200 grams, maybe 50 to 100 grams of that week is going to actually be new tissue. If you're really advanced, maybe less. Eat big to get big, it's pretty dead now. Like it's still cool. You probably got to experience it like once in your life. Just push a bulk really hard, send it on the food and get like big and be like, okay, like that was fun. Food was fun, but like, I don't feel that good now. I'm going to do a cut. Definitely worth trying at least once. But yeah, we like to keep it a little bit more conservative just to minimize the fat gain, make sure we're still building muscle.
Yeah, and remember this is on average, okay? So if you wake up 200 grams heavier the next day, that doesn't count. You would do that daily, like Paul said, and then look across on an average. That's gonna give you more accurate reading to know, okay, I'm eating enough, this is good, I'm going at a nice rate, you know, and if things are moving too quick than that, then maybe you need to do a bit of analysis and look, okay, where can I tidy things up? Am I piss farting around and maybe a bit too much on the weekends? Or, you know, am I essentially just maybe eating more than my body necessarily?
The macros. I'm gonna chuck this in there as well. Obviously for some of you guys may not be as applicable, but maybe you're tracking because obviously you've got competitive goals. So a surplus you'd be looking for in terms of calories and macros might be roughly 500 calories.
Yeah, I'd say anywhere from like the 300 to 500 mark. Really don't need to be pushing any more than this. People just think, oh my God, if I can eat more, it's gonna speed up my muscle growth. Nah, your body, only looking around that 300 to 500.
Yeah, and the reason why this is a little bit less important than this is because this is going to fluctuate. You know what I mean? You'd use a calculator online, you might think, okay, my TDE, my total daily energy expenditure on this calculator is 2,000 calories per day. So if I eat 2,500, I'm gonna be in a 500 calorie surplus. That's not always accurate. You know, it's gonna vary between each person. So as long as you're ticking this off, this is like less important. Because you are going to see massive scale weight fluctuations, you might not see the increases that you're looking for. You might even see one week you haven't gained any weight, but your progress photos might look completely different because your body composition's changed, but your scale weight's saying that it hasn't progressed.
Is where your scale weight may not essentially change, but your actual body composition does, which has happened with many numerous clients of mine where they've actually built muscle and lost body fat. Therefore, the scale weight's still the same, but the shape has changed. So this is why we love using a combination of, yeah, not just scale weight, but progress photos too. And, you know, if you want to, measurements as well. If we can take all these variables and if things are heading in the right direction, it's a pretty good sign that you're going to be building some muscle.
Yeah, and performance, like, we really want to highlight that as well.
Yeah.
Like, it's really easy to get caught up in the way your body looks or how much you weigh. Like it's so easy to be just obsessed with the numbers, but you got to remember that everything here is just data, and it just guides our decisions. Like, do we keep pushing harder? Do we take a little bit away?
This number on the scale's not doing what I want. Screw this shit. Not that I just hit 3 PBs last week. Doesn't matter. Let's get number on the scale's wrong. So this is why, like, yeah, essentially tracking everything and actually reviewing over that is really important. It can help ground you too, okay? Because the number on the scale is not everything. It's important, but collaboratively, that's a big word for me, with all the data.
It's also important to keep in mind that we're trying to be in a surplus every day, like daily.
Yes.
And it's important to keep in mind that it's daily because we're sensitive to growing muscle after a session for up to 72 hours. So after you train, the muscles you've trained are potentially growing for 72 hours after the session. So even if you train 3 days a week, if you only have the surplus on the day that you've trained and not the other 2, you're kind of missing out on a little bit of growth there potentially. So we keep the surplus consistent, keep it minimal to a point where we're not gaining too quick, and we do it daily because we want to make sure that we're maximizing things, getting the most out of it where we can.
Yeah, so that brings an important point as well, right? So you've got to be consistent with it, right? It's all good saying like, yeah, I'm in a build, okay, awesome. But if you're having times where, oh, you're skipping meals, or maybe you're out on the weekend and then, you know, you miss like your lunch and dinner or things like that, this is going to impact your ability to be able to build that muscle, right? So this is where we can look at basic strategies of, you know, ensuring, okay, let's plan out our actual day of eating, right? And even if you're taking a non-tracking approach, right, you could still be looking at, okay, I want to make sure I'm getting anywhere from that 4 to 6 meals in a day. What time and when am I going to get these meals in? And what's feasible too, right? You girls, you know, can ensure that each meal, okay, I've got some source of protein. That's going to be at least most important for your muscle building. And then ensuring that, okay, awesome, I've got some sort of starchy carbohydrate, whether it's your bread or it's your sweet potato, right? And then alongside that as well, ensuring that we are getting enough micronutrients through fruits and vegetables as well. And that's kind of like how I even encourage my non-tracking clients when they are having their meals to structure their meals in a way. Have I got a protein? Have I got a starchy carb? Have I got some plant sources in there? And if you can do that and probably get meals like that 3 to 6 times a day, whether you like 3 bigger meals or maybe like 4 to 6 smaller ones, depending how you like to eat. If you can do that consistently and then kind of manage those variables that we spoke about just before over time, that's when you can start to manipulate things. If you're getting stronger in the gym, if you can start to say, oh, my quads are looking fuller, or, oh, yep, the number scale, it's trending at a really nice rate, fantastic, right? But if you can see, I'm still always lethargic, I'm tired, I can't progress in the gym, you know, I'm actually losing weight, it might be time to just add another meal.
Well, that's where you could potentially add in peri-workout nutrition, which is basically just eating around your workouts. You know what I mean? Like getting carbohydrates in, because carbohydrates are the preferred fuel source for your sessions. So topping that up before your workout, getting some in after your workout, and also some protein can just be a way to sort of pump the calories up whilst you're still sticking to your, say, 3 square meals a day. If you're someone who has breakfast, lunch at school, dinner with the parents, adding in some pre and post workout food.
It's a fly on your head. Sorry.
adding in some pre and post workout food can be a nice way to cheekily bump up the calories. That's also in your control, because you can't control the calories you're getting from dinner. It's going to be whatever's cooked. Can't really control the calories you're getting from lunch, depending if you make it yourself or the parents make it for you. So adding in something like this can be one of the variables you can actually control, move around to start trying to get that scale weight to move in the direction we want to. And it will also help you perform better in the gym. Like being topped up with carbohydrates is just going to make you train better.
I always say like a bit of protein with the carbohydrates for training is really, really good, because that's going to give a bit of feeling of satiation, right? So if we're not going to the gym and having that feeling of starving, we're actually feeling satiated. This can also have some really good performance benefits too. So yeah, like when we are looking at carbohydrates, some really good ones, like you said, we're looking at quick digestible carbohydrates, right? Has anyone ever heard of high GI and low GI carbohydrates? Have you heard that term before? High GI carbohydrates, these are the quick digestible ones, right? These are the ones that are going to give us that quick release energy so we can utilize it in the gym. So like we just said, we had banana, we had LCM bars, we have things that are like honey, jams, rice cakes, all like your sugary based carbohydrates, right? But people go, oh my God, you shouldn't have sugar. No, like this can be really beneficial surrounding your training and help you get more out of your training, right? And to also ensure that you are keeping what's called your glycogen stores. Everyone heard of glycogen before? Yeah? I'll let Paul dive into a bit deeper with this one.
No, do you want me to dive into it?
I was just going to say, so when we train, we're obviously depleting our glycogen stores, right? So if we can go into the gym with these glycogen stores topped up, that's going to ensure that we can keep longer lasting energy throughout our session and not become lethargic and feel depleted, that you can perform better. And guess what? You get better performance, you get better muscle growth. Like Paul said before, that's why if we can utilize majority of our carbohydrates, and good rule of thumb is 50% pre and post workout, that is a great recipe for some muscle building potential to happen there.
Because post-workout, it's also important post-workout because you're doing it pre-workout to give you performance, but after you've depleted the carbs that are stored in your muscle, you want to top them back up, because carbs are anti-catabolic, so they prevent muscle degradation. They also, paired with protein, reduce cortisol, the stress hormone, so that's going to mean you're going to recover better. So it's just going to promote recovery, kickstart that recovery process ASAP once you finish working out. And yeah, that just makes it, it's such a good pair, such a good combo.
Yeah.
It's and yeah, obviously like protein post-workout as well, because getting those protein numbers up, it's so important. Yeah.
And you got to remember, like after a session, especially like a leg day, how cooked do you feel after, right? You feel after, you're like, oh my God, I feel so fucked up now, right?
Yeah, you gotta eat.
Yeah. So getting that food in, at least within, I don't even say an hour because of the muscle building window, but purely so that you actually can restore and again, top up those glycogen stores that you've now depleted after training, so you can still have longer lasting energy even throughout the day, that you're not going to feel sluggish and feel burnt out because you haven't fueled yourself after that hectic leg session that you just did. Hopefully maybe after hearing that, if you don't have many carbs before training, that could be something you just start implementing in. Do definitely want to look at getting some of those more low GI carbohydrates in, whether it is your oats or it is your rice and things like that, so you can restore all that energy and have that long lasting energy throughout the day too.
Cool. And also some bonus points as well, because carbohydrates are stored in the muscle with water. So there's 1 gram of carbs for every 3 grams of water attached to that. So electrolytes and water during your workout, drinking water after your workout and drinking water before your workout, really good idea to stay hydrated. Hydrated muscles just perform way better than dehydrated muscles. So electrolytes, another massive hack, because that's essentially what's transporting the water around to the right spots. Also the quick digesting carbs, like Amanda said, really important pre and post workout. Even post workout, you want to get those carbs in quickly.
It's going to recover you quicker.
Also some low GI carbs as well that are going to give you that sustained energy. And then also with your peri-workout nutrition, you want it to be low fat and low fiber. Fat is slow digesting, so that's going to slow things down. It's going to take its time to get back to the muscle, and same with fiber, it's also going to slow down digestion. So avoid these 2 things, keep it low GI and have a mad time and have a sick session, get a pump. So we love it.
It'll make you have a much more enjoyable session.
So when we're talking about the tracking approach for the people who track, the numbers we're looking for here, 2 to 3 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight. I tend to like this number way more myself, but that's because I'm a bit of a bro. If you can stomach to eat like more protein, I think it's always a good option. You're playing it safe, you're covering all your bases, you're always going to have protein available. It is just the most important macronutrient when it comes to building muscle. It's like,
and
without
not even
it,
muscle though,
anything.
like your body is going to utilize that extra protein to help with everything within your body, like to restore everything, not just
brain,
muscle.
eyes.
Like literally your overall
nails, hair, brain, eyes. Protein is the ghost. And if we're talking surplus for you guys, like we said earlier, 300 to 500 calorie surplus roughly is going to be pretty safe. And then the macro breakdown for that, like you're looking at, if I was going to go really like technical, you're looking at like 0.8 grams of fat per day per kilo.
And especially for females as well, being us girls, fats is going to be really important for your reproductive system, alongside your body to be able to, I was about to say inhale, that's not the word. I was going to say inhale vitamins for your body to be able to.
So some vitamins are fat soluble, so vitamin K, A, D, and E. So that's going to, like if you're not eating enough fat, you're essentially not going to be able to uptake those vitamins the way you normally would. So it is essential to get that up, and also it is vital for hormone production. So your endocrine system is run off fat, basically. So without it, if it's too low, if you're on a super low fat diet, you're going to have a lot of issues. Like I've ran a super low fat diet before when I first ever started tracking. I think I was eating like 10 grams of fat per day, and my skin started flaking off. And I was like, what the hell am I doing?
Why am I so moody? Why do I have no libido?
And I was like, what's going on? Turns out that I was grossly under eating fat because I was trying to fit every single like low calorie fucking sweet treat I could possibly fit in the macros, just a full if it fits your macros approach. And it does have a massive impact on your health. And then the rest of your macros are going to be made up by carbs, because carbs are, like I said, the fuel. They're the easiest to use as fuel. If you're running a really high fat diet in a surplus, you're essentially going to store that fat as fat a lot easier, because fat is just stored as fat. There's a less of a process to turn that into fat because it is already fat, whereas carbohydrates, they're far more likely to be utilized for energy throughout the day just to keep you going, keep you moving. And like a few things you might notice is as you start to introduce more food, you might notice that you start to move more. Like your NEAT starts to go up. Like
anyone heard of NEAT before? Have you heard the term NEAT, girls? NEAT, no. So NEAT stands for non-exercise activity thermogenesis. So we have a thing that's called our TDEE, our total daily energy expenditure. That's how many calories, energy your body burns throughout the whole day. And NEAT is just one of those components that makes a part of that. So that is exercise that is not planned. It's you blinking, it's fidgeting your foot, it's like talking with your hands, right? All these things. Now, like Paul said before, when we are on high carbs, we can start bouncing off the walls more. When we talk, we're like really engaging because we're just so full of carbs, right? But then if you're someone that's in a bodybuilding contest prep, you're 2 weeks out from show, you can best believe I'm gonna be like this and almost barely blinking.
So bodybuilding show, these ones down-regulate. When you've got a surplus, these things tend to upregulate a little bit. It's trying, your body naturally wants to maintain what's called homeostasis, which is basically equilibrium. It just wants to stay as is. It doesn't want to grow, it doesn't want to do anything else, it just wants to stay the same. So it's naturally going to just increase how much you move. And also when you're really shredded, it's just going to decrease it. This is also going to decrease, like your BMR, which is just how much energy you use just by being alive. That's going to decrease because you're smaller, or when you're in a surplus, you're heavier, so it's going to increase a little bit. Another one I wanted to highlight while we're here and talking about it is exercise activity thermogenesis. It only makes up 5% of the calories you're burning. So if you are changing the topic altogether, but say if you're chasing fat loss and you're trying to out-exercise a bad diet, like it's just not going to happen for you because it just doesn't utilize enough energy. Such a small percentage. On another important part, talking about how when we obviously have higher food and we start moving around more, our NEAT levels go up, and I'm gaining weight nice consistent rate, but you know, I'm moving around more, I'm training harder than ever because I've got all this extra food, and then I'm not really seeing the number on the scale go up anymore. Like could actually increase my food more because I'm just moving around more, right? So my surplus is no longer my surplus. That's gonna be even more beneficial when you decide, okay, I think I wanna tidy up now, drop a bit of body fat. Your body's gonna be so responsive to dropping those calories and dropping that fat a lot easier because you spent the time not dieting as opposed to just always trying to chase a diet. Yeah, and that's where a lot of people find themselves. Like they find themselves scared to put on weight. Like it is a scary thing. It's like, I've been pretty big in the past, and I know when I first started putting on weight, I was like, fuck, do I really have to? Like, this kind of sucks. Like, I don't want to have to like get fat again. This is terrible. And that's where like you can use something like what Amanda's speaking about to give you that motivation to say, hey, maybe I can be in a surplus. Because I know, losing weight is pretty easy. Like it's probably the easier part out of the two because it's fast, it's efficient, and you restrict food and it's gonna come off. Like you're gonna get rid of it. Whereas building muscle, there's all these things that come into it. So using that as something to fall back on to say, hey, maybe I can be the person who is in a surplus. Like I can potentially put on a little bit of weight because I know how important it is, and I know that, you know, it's going to increase my calories over time. And then when I do finally decide to do the cut, it's going to be so much easier. It's going to be a walk in the park. Like you might get your calories up to 3,000 and then your deficit is going to start in 2,500. Whereas if you're constantly always dieting, always putting yourself back in a deficit, you might lose weight on 1,500.
Yeah. And the beauty of like, you know, when you're being in a build, you get to obviously eat more food, you get to have more energy, your mood is better, life is essentially somewhat better. And sometimes that may come at a cost of feeling a little bit fluffier in the guts to get a bigger booty. But what we can do to manage body fat, so again, talking about trying to build muscle without putting on too much body fat, is we can utilize strategies such as mini cuts. Has anyone ever heard of mini cut before, the term mini cut? So basically it is a very short deficit that we can impose within the build, maybe say after 4 to 6 months of building. And what this can do is help bring up hunger signaling back. You might find if you've done a build, say 6 months, how hard is it getting the food at the end? You're like, I'm just so not wanting food, I just have to get it in because I want to build muscle. Yeah, I feel like that's a really important point. Like, you don't need to be, you know, eating in a surplus for 12 months. Heck, that would be really hard. I don't think I could do that straight. I would need a mini cut purely because just getting that every day, that amount of food for 12 months, it's tough. People think dieting's tough. Try eating like, I mean, for myself, I've eaten 3,000 calories once in a build for 6 months straight. That was tough. I got the ick of oats. I did not want to eat another bowl of oats in my life. I was like, get it the fuck away from me. So mini cuts can be really great in restoring that, bringing that back up. And they, like I said, they're quite aggressive. It's like a get in, get it done. And you'll find as well, you might even drop a kilo a week. You probably get a lot off within that first few weeks because, again, not only will you lose fat, but you'll also be dropping a lot of water, gut mass from the reduction of food as well. So it can just be that thing that kind of helps you have that longevity with your building phase too. So you don't give up on it because you're uncomfortable. Manage it.
And we're looking for, when it comes to like building and cutting, we are looking for a minimum of a 4:1 ratio of build to cut. So if you're doing a 12-week diet, times that by 4, that's how long you should really be pushing the build for before you try and diet again. Because we want these metabolic adaptations to improve. The ones Amanda was talking about before in terms of your total daily energy expenditure. So you want that to come back to baseline again.
Yep.
And you also want to regulate your hunger hormones. So a mini cut could be an effective way to start to get these to function a little bit better how we want them to. Because essentially when you have been in a surplus for a while, the two hormones that signal hunger and signal fullness, hunger signals decrease, fullness signals increase. So you're constantly feeling full and you're never feeling hungry. So doing a quick mini cut is going to sort of reset this again for you. And then you can get back into your bulk and be like, I'm actually enjoying food instead of feeling sick every time. Like I've gotten to points where I'm eating my food out of the bowl and I'm going,
I'm like, baby, leaving crumbs.
Every mouthful.
Do you want to get big or not?
I'm like, I'm leaving like veggies in there and Amanda's like, you gotta eat your veggies.
You gotta
I'm
eat your
like,
vegetables.
right, I don't want to eat this anymore. I'm done. I'm so done with food.
Yeah.
So the little reset you can do with a mini cut can really help improve these metabolic adaptations. It can't fix them entirely unless you do, like especially when you've been cutting for a while, like going back the other way to bulking. Like that's why we want that 4:1 ratio, because it takes a lot longer to reset the metabolic adaptations that come from getting super shredded, whereas the adaptations that come from bulking, I guess a mini cut probably does sort that out pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And the mini cuts we're looking for are 2 to 6 weeks long at a complete max. Like
very
anything
short.
over that,
in and out.
It's a proper diet at that point. Like you're really starting to get those negative impacts that can potentially
and then
happen.
that might impair your performance that you just worked so hard to get up as well. We just want the process, get in, tidy up, get the hunger back, cool, straight back in, whether it's another 3-6 months of a build, get on with it. And then later down the track, that's when you might be looking, all right, now I'm gonna do an actual fat loss phase, get a little bit shreddy now, because I know I've spent the last 12 months building a shit ton of muscle, and I wanna reveal that now as well. But another interesting point in regards to how we just spoke about, you know how I said I got the oat ick and I was like, I don't want to fucking eat that again, right? So this is where food selection in a build becomes really important too, right? Because we can't just fill up on whole foods. There's no way you're going to be able to do a build just living off whole foods. You're going to get extremely full. You're probably going to be consuming way too much fiber, and you're going to get a lot of gut distress too, okay? So this is where, when we are finding, if you've been set calories and you're in a build and you're like, I am really struggling to hit these calories, like I'm just so full all the time, rework your diet and be like, okay, if I'm getting my 3 to 5 serves of vegetables a day and I'm hitting my protein targets, then now I'm left with X amount of calories, and no doubt it's going to be a shit ton of carbs that are still left, right? So this is where we can come back to looking at utilizing those quick digestible carbohydrates that we spoke about, right? Because they're not satiating, they're very low in fiber, and you're going to be able to eat it and you're not going to be full. So it's going to help you get those additional carbohydrates in. We can also start looking at utilizing things like liquid calories, right? Your up and goes, or a bit of OJ with your breakfast in the morning. These can be really great ways to be able to get that in. So don't ever think like, I have to eat clean. It's going to be impossible in a build, and it's probably going to cause you more issues, and it's going to make it hard for you to build muscle. Yeah, cool.
So I've done a little summary here of just like the key points to take away from when it comes to being in a surplus. 200 to 400 gram increases on average over the course of the week is going to be ideal. Trying to take our scale weights daily, remembering that that is just data that we're using to work with rather than actually our self-worth, because it is literally just numbers on the scale. Like it's how much you weigh relative to gravity at that exact point in time, which can fluctuate due to a bunch of reasons, which I'll quickly run through.
Yeah, this is good. I think this is really good to know, because I can't tell you how many times I've had maybe some clients, Amanda, oh my God, like the diet's not working, I've gained this amount of weight, and it ruins their whole day. If you ever stepped on the scale and you're like, fuck this, like I feel shit, right? It happens. But if we can have awareness surrounding why the scale weight changes, this can empower us to be able to work towards our goals, not letting that number on the scale keep stopping you going, I'm going to undereat, my weight's up too high. There are so many factors that go into play with this.